Well, there are two types of empathy gaps to talk about. The first is when other people cannot comprehend what it's like to live with HAE. Even if you spend an hour explaining everything, not that anybody would really want to do that, they're still not going to be able to comprehend what it's like to live with HAE. The challenges, the missed opportunities, the memory of past swelling or attacks, knowing other people who have HAE, anticipating future attacks, needing to deal with doctors and medical systems that don't always have a good understanding of HAE. People can't understand all of that. And that can be very frustrating. So a type 2 empathy gap is when having a very serious life-affecting illness shifts your sense of what is bad or upsetting. And that means when a friend is going through something that they find very upsetting, for them it might be a 9 out of 10, it can be hard to empathise with that because after everything that you've been through, that's now about a 4 or a 5 out of 10. So it can just be a little bit tricky to sound or to be empathic with that person. Now, both types of empathy gaps are manageable though. Let's think about type 1 first. We can be more compassionate if we ask a question like this. In what way is it understandable that this person cannot comprehend what it's like living with HAE? And what sort of expectations can I have about how much they can actually really understand my point of view? Now, it's possible to increase somebody's empathy by giving them a page to read or directing them to certain web links or videos. Let's jump to type 2 empathy gap. If you're having trouble empathizing with others, you could try a couple of questions like, in what way is it understandable that for them this is very serious and this is upsetting? And is it not understandable that I find it hard to hear that they're so upset just about this? And then we're free to respond to their stress like it is a 7 or an 8 out of 10, because we now see that for them it is. There are many sources of sadness, missed opportunities for people living with HAE. Let's start with younger people. I've spoken to some children and teenagers living with HAE, and I can recall some reporting that they missed out on important activities to them like sleepovers and school camps. Others reported that they felt very self-conscious when being asked about why they look different or why they swell, why they have so many days absent from school. In adults, there are also many examples, which might include missing out on activities also, like family activities, travel, camping. Many others have talked about the impact on their career progression as well, and that will lead to feelings of sadness, missing out. One of the first coping strategies that I recommend is to actually allow yourself to name the emotions and let yourself have them before you try any other coping strategies. So think about how you would express your emotions and how you would experience them. If you find that hard, you could think about how other people that you know would experience and express their emotions. Think about how long you want to do that for in a healthy way. And my tip would be that it's not in seconds, because that's not long enough, and it's not going to be hours or days, because that's just dwelling on it. But it is important to let ourselves actually acknowledge our feelings before we try to do anything else. The alternative would be just invalidating your own feelings, which is never helpful. If we tell ourselves to pull ourselves together, or that we should pull up our socks and just keep going, that doesn't actually make us a better person or make us a better coper. It just means that we're pushing our emotions aside. I can't imagine that you'd say that to somebody else, and it's not helpful if we say it to ourselves. The next step is to extend on that and find a place for all of your emotions. A good motto is that There are no bad emotions. We have positive feelings and negative feelings, but none of them are bad. You can imagine your mind is like a room, and there's lots of space in this room for big emotions and small emotions. All of them can have a place. If you think about what happens when we try to suppress emotions, then it usually doesn't work. Blocking a feeling actually can make it more prominent in your mind. Let's try this. For the next 15 seconds, try your hardest not to think about the last time you felt you were missing out on something or you felt a bit ripped off. And what happens if you try to forget that memory and push that emotion aside? A lot of us feel it even more. Now try this for another 20 seconds. Just accept that it is unfair. And while you're accepting that injustice does happen sometimes, I want you to try to recall the last 3 lunches that you had, starting with the last one that was either today or yesterday. Where were you? What did you have? Did you like it? And the lunch before that, where were you? Can you remember what you had? And the lunch before that. And now what happens to that feeling of injustice or sadness? You didn't try to get rid of it. You'll actually let it be there, but it goes into the background, and it's easier to shift your attention to then what you do have, which brings us to another strategy, which is consciously making time to think about what you still do have in your life so that we focus on that more than what we've lost. Have a think about what assets that you have that you might take for granted. Gratitude can be very helpful. It's hard to feel sad and down when we're feeling appreciative. If you've never tried it before, try keeping a gratitude diary once a week or even daily. Another strategy is how to keep things in perspective. That can be hard because it's all about perception in our mind and we get caught up with things. But let me give you some examples. Somebody I know said to themselves, you know what, if I didn't have HAE, I know that I would still have problems and hassles because all of my friends do. Somebody else says to themselves, I'm just grateful that I'm alive, to be honest, and that I have medication that has changed my life recently. I appreciate any days or weeks that I'm symptom-free, and I do not take my health for granted anymore. And that's their way of keeping things in perspective. So in summary, HAE inevitably brings negative emotions to anybody's life. And we've talked about some strategies that can help you to manage all of those negative emotions. A lot of people would want to watch this video again to make the most out of this. You can read the accompanying PDFs that are available on the website. But most of all, I recommend that you give yourself time to practice these strategies because nobody can use them with great effectiveness the very first time they try them. Always keep in mind that you are not alone. All of the emotions and the strategies that we've talked about apply to just about everybody with HAE. And HAE Australasia connects everybody through their website and their various services. Make sure that you stay connected as well.